Coming up, another monthly yarn over the back fence with Walter Williams and Ashleigh Mack. On the show, we discuss Parking Day, Council's flood review, 30 years of Springfield, the Galvanized Festival, local legend Peter McMahon, and we reminisce about road trips in the 60s and 70s. All this and more in the 206th episode of Ipswich Today. It's Tuesday, September 20, 2022, and I'm Alan Roebuck. Welcome to Ipswich Today, which acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which it is produced and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging. This podcast is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. Walter Williams has called Ipswich home for 31 years, and you will know his voice on many TV and radio ads. He was previously heard on QFM, Star FM, River and 4BC. Welcome, Walter.
It's good to be back, mate. Thank you.
Ashleigh Mack was born in Ipswich. Growing up in Ebbw didn't affect him very much at all. He was, no, settle down. He was the first voice on QFM in 1990. Congratulations on that, Ash. He's still a media tart and a small business owner. Welcome in, Ashleigh Mack.
Mate, it's good to be here for episode number 18.
Yeah, we're chalking them up over the last year and a half, that's for sure. Well, let's kick off this episode talking about the top of town Parking Day. Now, the idea of this was to temporarily repurpose curbside parking spaces and convert them into parks and social spaces to advocate a safer, greener environment. Ash, you've got your hand up on our Skype call.
I drove down through town.
Yes.
And went, what the hell's going on? And then when I saw something about, I thought all they'd done was move the chairs off the footpath into the parking spaces. I thought to myself, that's a good idea. We'll get people eating down top of it. But where they're going to park? It wasn't until I read the paperwork that I realised that it had anything to do with greening the world and saving the planet.
Exactly.
Well, it's interesting. It started in San Francisco in 2005. I hope council didn't pay any royalties to conduct Parking Day. And supposedly it's celebrated in 160 cities around the world. But Ipswich was the only Australian city to do it this year, which is a little
odd. Wonder why.
Yeah. Walter, what did you think of Parking Day or days?
Well, like Ash, I was actually in the city centre on Saturday and I was looking to go and have some breakfast with my little Henry Waffles down at Dancing Bean. Could not get a park for love nor money. And I went, great, good on you, Parking Day. Now I can't get a park and I can't spend money with local businesses that really need it right now.
Isn't it funny how the definition of the word parking changes as you change in age? If I'd have been 18 and I was living in Ipswich, parking meant taking Penelope up to the lookout at Queen's Park. I remember going up there one time. We were both so exhausted we actually fell asleep in the front seat of the car and had to get moved on by the boys in blue. That's true.
It's a different take on Parking Day.
It certainly is. Well, look, the concept is interesting. It's colourful. But as you mentioned there, Walt, wonder what the local businesses thought when the regular curbside parking wasn't available for 3 days.
Look, I understand it's good intentions with Marnie Doyle and company, but honestly, if you can't park and can't support local businesses, then what is the point of it? I just don't understand it. Why do this? And for anyone who's ever seen the TV series Mr. Mercedes, the last thing you want to do is use a green space out on the street. It's very dangerous.
Maybe it's something for the future when there's a better bypass road system around the city centre and more off-street parking. I don't know. The jury's out on it, but let's move on to something that is still in the news, the 2022 flood, and Council's launched a flood review. I'm just wondering what Council will find out, what we don't know already after 2011, 2013, and again this year. We know Ipswich floods. Is it that we need better warning systems, better education to keep your residents informed? Walt, you're in the thick of the flood zone.
Absolutely. And I undertook the Understanding Your Perspective survey on this website and went through the whole thing. So hopefully someone listens to what I've had to say. Because one of the things that comes out of it is I noticed there was a listening tour in Ipswich for those people in various areas. I wasn't even aware there was a listening tour. So what's the point of having a listening tour if you're not informing people you've got this tour.
And I think that's a totally separate issue for council's marketing team, how to get to most Ipswich residents. And we've talked about this in past episodes, the fragmentation of media. Direct mail seems to have dropped off. The mighty Salmat, which was the king of direct mail companies in Australia, went broke. So how do you get to every resident in Ipswich now? There's just so much media choice.
I don't know if you need to get to every resident. All you need to do is look at a flood map and know which residents were affected and get to those residents.
And do a letterbox drop to them.
Exactly. It's not rocket science.
Have you noticed the number of flood-affected properties on the market?
Yes. And they're selling too.
Yeah. Oh, look, they'll always sell to investors who want somewhere to give someone somewhere to live. Probably that's the reason we should have a really good warning system. And probably something they could do is if they put on, the street signs where the street names, if they had on that just at the end an arrow that said, okay, in case of flood, go that direction, because it's so hard to find your way around.
Yeah, true.
When things flood. It may be something like build it into our infrastructure advisory on that.
Yeah. Well, after 2011, they put up the flood depth signs. I remember they came up within 12 months of that flood.
Yeah, there was also talk at the time of putting flood levels on power poles, but that was considered a bit too scary and would frighten people off, and existing homeowners wouldn't be able to sell their homes. But there's got to be a balance somewhere, and I think it's particularly as newer residents come in who haven't experienced a flood, there needs to be an ongoing education program. Well, much like the cyclone season. Ash, you've experienced it too in North Queensland. At the start of every cyclone season, there's a really big public awareness campaign. Maybe we need the same thing here for the chance of flooding.
I'm the type of person who you should move into anywhere that has cyclones, because when I moved to Mackay, and the house I bought actually had the corner of it ripped off in a cyclone years before, I was told by a neighbour. But the whole time we were there were no cyclones. As soon as we left, guess what? Boom, one hits.
There's been a few.
Poor old Japan. Have you seen what's happened to Kyushu? That storm that went through there yesterday, 250 kilometre-an-hour winds.
Phenomenal.
That is just insane.
Yeah, it is insane.
Ashleigh's logic sounds like that Robin Williams movie where the plane crashed into the house. He looks at the house and goes, "Oh, I'm buying that house." And she goes, "No, but a plane crashed in." He goes, "It'll never happen again." And it did. Spoiler alert.
Thanks for that,
just my luck.
Hey, 2022 marks the 30th anniversary of Springfield, which Springfield Land Corporation, Maha and Rob Sharpless, Maha's in Athamby I'm talking about there, and Rob Sharpless kicked off. Everyone said they were mad at the time. It was born under the former Morton Shire Council. They bought this large tract of old forestry land, and it became part of Ipswich in 1995 with amalgamation, which I think a lot of people don't realise. What are your earliest memories? Walter, I'm thinking that it might be broadcasting live on Star 106.9 when you couldn't get into Springfield except through Old Logan Road. Would that be right?
That's right. Yes, back in the early days, it was difficult getting in there. But I distinctly remember looking at Springfield City when it started and seeing the outlay, the maps and the town perspective of what it could become that Maha had set out. I remember meeting the man himself back in the early days. And what a visionary this guy is and still is today.
Yes.
Here we are 30 years on. Because he had, when you look at it, there was like a handful of houses there originally, but he had in his mind, and he had all the little Lego cities worked out. He knew exactly what he was doing. It's brilliant.
Pretty phenomenal master planning.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember some of the milestones. That was the Centenary Highway extension before it opened. And Springfield Lakes did not have one house in it yet. There was a marquee and an opening ceremony, and the road sort of stopped there at Springfield Lakes before it went on to on further. What are the other milestones? The Augusta Parkway, when it was just single lane traffic. I remember riding my motorbike through there when there was just bush.
And look at it now.
Yeah.
It's a freeway.
Quite incredible. People have got to live somewhere. Ash, what are your early memories of the Springfield development?
It's funny. I've got a lot of memories of people saying, why aren't they on their own? Because they really are. Do we need... We're a very big city, aren't we? Stretched over a long way. And when they amalgamated this, did they save that much money? Wouldn't they have better off having their own sort of Springfield council and this sort of stuff?
As you know, there's been talk of that on and off over the years, and the old chestnut that Ipswich ratepayers are paying for new developments. When you buy a block of land, you're already paying for the sewerage, the water, so the existing ratepayers aren't paying for that. Yeah, that's an interesting one, Ash. The Queensland model is bigger councils, not smaller ones. And I think Ipswich overall has benefited from the Springfield development and the Ripley Valley development, which is also going gangbusters.
But isn't it funny when you're listening to the news, or the news comes on at night, it's Springfield in West Brisbane.
Springfield Land Corp, now Springfield City Group as they call themselves, have done an excellent job of marketing themselves as a separate identity, which leads me to my next question. While we're in the media and have been in the media, is there really a Springfield-Ipswich divide with the average resident, do you think? Or do they care?
Oh, I think it's a real thing. Yeah. Well, it seems like in a lot of cases, Springfield do get some kind of favoritism over what happens here in the central part of Ipswich, the CBD, which has been let go badly for many years. It's starting to pick up now, as we know, with Tonma Place and all of that. But yeah, I think there's a divide.
It's all a bit of a Ponzi scheme, though, isn't it?
Why is that, Ash?
Well, I live in I'm at Corona Gardens, right? That little estate near Chua, and the roads are just starting to fall apart. Now, I actually bought Cess Forbes' house. Cess Forbes was the engineer, the Shire engineer at Morton Shire Council. This was his house. And when they built this suburb, they had the nice roads through it, and it was all pretty well put together. But it's now too expensive for the council to come through and fix up the roads. The way this system works, the way we set up suburbs is a bit of a Ponzi scheme. It actually deteriorates, and it won't be until, someone gentrifies a suburb in maybe another 30, 40 years that the roads get done properly again, because they're falling apart now.
And this is the thing, parts of Ipswich City are being neglected, while Springfield seems to be growing and has fresh roads. And there's a lot of properties around Ipswich that are only just getting footpaths and curb and channeling that have been around for 30, 50 years.
Yeah, true.
And therein lies another history lesson. A lot of Morton Shire was developed without curb and channeling and even sewerage. Whereas now that would be a whole different ballgame if it was a new development today. There is one more question I want to ask about the Springfield-Ipswich alleged divide. How can we become one city?
That's a tough one. I don't think it'll ever happen.
Don't know the answer to that one.
Is it marketing? Is it the rail link so people can easily come in either direction?
Maybe just in time, it'll end up like that trip to the Gold Coast used to be, where you had nothing for miles and miles, and now it's just endless homes. So the same thing will happen between Springfield City and Ipswich. The bridge will be all the new estates, and then the divide will no longer physically exist.
And the psyche will change, you think. Yeah, interesting take on it. Well, let's talk about something fun. And I'm really disappointed I missed this because I was away on a bit of a road trip in the last month. The Galvanized Festival. Did you make it to any of the events, Walt?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. I would have loved to get down to the beards and bikes thing, even though I don't have either. But I think they should throw in beers next year as well.
Beards and bikes, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be on board for that. I'll even grow a beard for that and get a bike license.
Ash, what about you?
Well, I once had a Virago and people laughed at me. Because apparently they're not a real bike. Most people on motorbikes thought I was a horse, so I couldn't have turned up to that. And when I grow a moustache, it's called football team moustache. There's 11 aside.
Okay,
that's about it. No, I didn't get to see any of those. The one thing, there was a photographic display by I'm just trying to think his name. He's a real estate agent, and he
Jason McNamara.
Jason's. I've seen so many posts about it, and I'd love to go see it. Was that part of that?
I don't think it was officially part of Galvanized. I think it's just on at the art gallery, isn't it?
Yeah, and that looks really, really good. But no, I didn't get to any of the other things. Probably too busy mowing lawns.
Yeah, probably. I'll mark it in my calendar for next year. I'd like to go to that
absolutely.
Bikes, Beards and Barbecue event.
It's just it coincided with Father's Day, that event. So I had stuff planned that day, naturally.
There you go. Peter McMahon is a name we all know in Ipswich. He is a local legend, associated previously with McMahon Soft Drinks. And he also now has the Swim Factory. What are your memories of McMahon soft drinks and your favourite flavours? Ash?
Anything.
I don't remember it personally, but I've seen it. Anything.
Right. It was great. And it was. And the other thing is they had a bottle that was called a dump. Right. It was an unusual shape. No, seriously. It was called the dump bottle. It was not tall, thin. It was sort of fat and round. And anything. And you'd get a bottle of anything and your chips from Galisa's fish shop, and for the intermission at the Winter Garden Theatre, you had to have the McMahon soft drinks. By the way, that's not why I remember Peter.
Right. Why is it?
Peter was actually a member of a railway swimming club. Peter's about 10 years older than me.
Right.
So he was the older, big guy, swimming guy when I was the little fella in the swimming. And my history with them is that, and also I work with his son in real estate. And I work with his daughter-in-law now at the hospital. So I'm surrounded by the bloody McMahons.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Great people, though.
Walter.
My children both went through Peter McMahon's Swim Factory in the old soft drink factory, and it was great for them. They both came out very good swimmers to this day. They're competent swimmers. What I'm surprised about is that Peter is celebrating 78 years of age.
And he is not slowing down.
He looks amazing. I mean, I catch up with him occasionally, and I'm the voice on their some of their promotional material, and they're on hold. So, in full disclosure, but I thought Pete was only probably 10 years older than me, but I didn't realise he had that much, because he's so fit and vital, isn't he?
Well, I do see him from time to time I see him almost every week, actually, at Rotary, and he does regular swimming almost every other day. That's what he tells me, so it's keeping him fit.
He won a Masters event, didn't he? Or got second in a...
Oh, yes. He's done the Masters.
Yeah, he's fit little Vegemite. He swims further than I bloody walk.
Which isn't far.
That's right.
Well, we offer our congratulations to Peter McMahon on continued success of the Swim Factory.
And, of course, the second one out at Orion Shopping Centre, talking of Springfield.
And he has another two in the planning stages.
Oh, really?
Yes, no, the empire is expanding. But that's for another day. I mentioned a short time ago that I was away on a road trip in the last month, so I thought we might reminisce about road trips as a kid. Ash, I want to come to you first as our local connection growing up in Ebervale. What are your memories of road trips and where did you go?
I remember being 12 years old and Dad got out the HQ Kingswood, a Dublin green with a white top it was, and green upholstery, bench seat in the front. And we'd jump in the car, Mum, me and my sister, and go out on a Sunday, go for a Sunday drive. And it's usually somewhere we'd pick somewhere where there was a view. So you'd either do Warwick and go up the Cunningham's Gap or the Toowoomba Range or something like that. But you'd have to stop at the little... roadside stores to get your fruit and veggies on your way and that sort of stuff, because you always get it off the farm, and Arachula in those days. So I think Arachula even then had a bakery. You could stop and get something to eat there as well. That's where we used to go. Just you meaning on weekend,
Yeah, just Saturday or Sunday afternoon trips out. They used to be a big thing.
And the other thing was the do you remember the single lane road to the Gold Coast?
I do.
You can still see one of the bridges there at near the Beanley rum factory across the road. There's that unusual red bridge. That's the original red bridge. And you used to go down and you'd come out near the old crab farm. And there was no Logan motorway, so you had to go all the way down to Granard Road, right across over to Logan Road, then down Logan Road onto the Gold Coast Highway and all the way down. It used to take like 1.5 hours.
Oh, easily.
To get to that was to the top end of the coast. If you went to the bottom end of the coast, you had to pack your lunch.
We were just commenting on this the other day, how much quicker it is now, the M1's there.
I know. When you get a good run, it is a great run. Well, you and I might have similar memories growing up in Townsville. One of my favourite weekend family drives that we used to get taken on was, the big one was to go to Paluma at Mount Spec.
Yes, I was hoping you'd say that.
Because it was a very narrow single-lane road, quite hairy to get up and down.
Still dangerous.
Yeah. But we went there to escape the heat.
Yeah, you did. You had Crystal Creek running through Paluma there. Beautiful as you get to the top, which we call Mount Spec. I love those trips. And then one of my uncles had a cane farm out at Matani, which is sort of halfway between Townsville and Ingham and Innisfail and all of that. And that was beautiful. And it had Crystal Creek actually running through the back of their cane farm. They had several hundred acres. It was just wonderful childhood memories growing up, eating mangoes under the mango trees until you turned yellow.
But you don't have to do it that way anymore, by the way. You don't. You can just jump on Google, what do you call it, Google thing.
Google Maps.
Google Maps.
I know.
And then follow the maps and have a look and say, okay, look, we just passed that. You can do
it's the cheapest way to travel with $2 fuel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not quite the same experience. But of course, this was also in the era, and we're talking 60s, 70s, when urban area hotels were only open for 2 hours at lunchtime and 2 hours late afternoon on a Sunday. But if a pub was a certain distance from a major town, it could trade all day. And I remember one of those hotels was the Rolling Stone pub.
Oh, yeah.
And
legendary.
Before the days of .05, Sunday was its biggest day because everybody would come up from Townsville to go to the Rolling Stone pub.
And the kids would have a pink lemonade and mum and dad would have the real deal.
Yeah,
that was a gamble as to whether you got home.
It was a gamble, and
beautiful.
Thankfully we did. Do you think kids of today are getting the same experience?
No.
Oh, no. They don't get that. So many people find it so hard to run a car at the moment because the sheer cost. You can see there's less traffic on the road. No, we'll stay at home. You can play your game on the Xbox.
Yeah, I suppose that is all that. Caravans and camping are certainly flavour of the month because crossing the Nullarbor, I have never seen so many caravans on a major highway. It was either road trains or caravans. So there's some money about somewhere, and no wonder it's taking 6 to 12 months to buy a new caravan. Ash?
My son, oldest son Adam, is about 2 weeks ago left Moranbah, and he's now in Weipa. He's taking his two 5-year-old sons, the twins, and his wife to the top of Cape York. And he sent me a picture the other day. I wonder if it's useless doing a picture on a podcast, but he's got a.
You've worked in radio.
Yeah, he's got a Triton. You know, this Triton. He bought it like 11 years ago, and his wife wouldn't let him use the Prado. Yeah. So he's got this Triton connected up to the this trailer. And he sent me a photo the other day. He said, "Dad, I was going down through this culvert, and all of a sudden I heard the jingling of, the chains on the back." He has bent the Triton. You know, you see those photos with the cars bent? He's done it. He's bent it, and he's up there. He's still driving it, though.
Wow.
He's still driving this bent Triton around North Queensland, so... But the kids are loving it. You should see the photos of what the kids are getting up to. They are just having a ball.
Oh, that's great to hear. This chat over the back fence is coming to a close very quickly. Is there anything I've missed?
I'd just like to add one thing.
Yeah.
Last weekend one of the things I enjoy doing is getting rid of all the crap around here and going to the dump. So I went down to Riverview with my piled up trailer and try to do the right thing, put the cardboard where the cardboard goes, everything where it's supposed to go. And I'd emptied everything out except for a fire extinguisher, which was out of date. And I thought, no, where do I put the fire extinguisher? Where does it go? So I went up to this bloke and I said, hey, because he's in the Ipswich City Council uniform, where do I put this? He said, you can't dump that, mate. You got to take it with you. But next Sunday, and everybody should know this, this is the 25th, is it? Yeah, the 25th. They've got the place open for all the chemicals and crap you've got around your house to get rid of it, all the dangerous stuff. Which is a really good idea.
That is a fantastic idea, and it is something council has been doing on an annual basis for well over a decade, if I was to pick a number. But of course, again, we talk about how does council get a message to all residents. So you've heard about it firsthand, Ash, and you're going back on Sunday.
Mate, I'm going back on Sunday because all that paint and all those old garden chemicals and all that crapola that I've been hanging on to, including that fire extinguisher, is going to the dump.
All right, on that note, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for the great yarn over the back fence, gentlemen. We'll do it again next month. Thanks, Ash.
See ya.
Thanks, Walter.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Ash.
A reminder to look for handy links in the show notes, and if you have any feedback about the show, please go to the Ipswich Today website. Ipswich Today is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. This podcast is also listener-supported. Please make a once-only gift or regular donation to help keep it online. Just go to ipswichtoday.com.au and click the donate button on the homepage to make a payment through PayPal. Follow and stream this podcast from your favourite app, including iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcasts, or play Ipswich Today from smart speakers. Music is supplied by Purple Planet Music. This is Alan Roebuck. Thank you for listening.